I don't have a cool intro video like Steven does, but welcome, greetings. If you see this, if you tune in live or you see it later in the future, um, I am really excited for this conversation because this individual, I met them through Steven, and I think we are going to have some discussion that needs to happen, some clarification maybe. This is Alan Thomas, also known as Alex Freeman. We'll get into that in a minute, but he is an advocate for and participating, campaigning, supporting the American Capitalist Party, which sounds right up my alley. So I'm super interested to unpack that. But he's also seems to be philosophically minded. He displayed that, with some comments yesterday on Steven's stream. And so I want to maybe get into some philosophy and then also potentially spirituality, because you also said, something you said that really stuck with me was the 3D to 5D shift. It's developmental psychology. And so maybe I want to get into that as well. But first, I think we'll let you tell the story of your name, and then we'll kind of get into the American Capitalist Party, its platform, and all of that. I can screen share and bring up the website if you want, or we can just freeball it. It's kind of up to you.
If you want to bring up the website at any point, be my guest. I want to share that website with everyone. Um, we'll get into the name thing, but as it relates to the American Capitalist Party, this I want everyone that tunes in to know that we are a brand new organization. We are fully compliant with all IRS and FEC rules, regulations, and filings. We are here to elect candidates across the country. Where you guys live, where you live, possibly you are one of the candidates that we need under our banner to run for city council, run for mayor, run for your state legislator or county commissioner, whatever the case may be. Um, and, and we can get into the vetting and the ideas behind that, the strategy, but we're starting something new with the hope that we can maintain the values of some things that are old and held dear to all of us. Uh, those being the ideas of liberty, uh, life, liberty, the pursuit of one's own happiness, and a laissez faire economy. Free from government interaction, free from government regulation, free from government overstep and overreach, and essentially ensuring that the rights of the individual, the rights of the people, the rights of Americans are preserved. All income tax needs to be abolished. Tax consumption instead. Okay, well that's debatable. Thank you, Mongoose.
Well, so it's really funny. Thank you, Mongoose, for being here and for that comment. The Mongoose is actually the person that I was talking about before we went live, where I
Okay.
think Mongoose supports universal basic income. And so I'd be curious, Mongoose, let us know: do you support universal, not universal basic income, excuse me, universal health care? Let me know. And then that's maybe a good segue. Does How does the American Capitalist Party? You said laissez-faire capitalism, but also I get the vibe that there are still some social programs that you all care about. Is that accurate?
Not exactly. So the idea of social programs for the American Capitalist Party is going to come from the society itself. It's Those programs are not government sponsored. They're not government funded. It's society funded. It is society doing that for society. It is our brothers keeping our brothers, our sisters keeping our sisters. It is us supporting us. Uh,
Would any be opposed to states implementing volunteer tax systems, but
so
it have to be voluntary?
any government interaction or engagement in that sector, in that space, would be based off of a new style of income tax filing or tax filing generally, where whatever the amount is that any particular individual has to pay annually into a state or federal tax system would be 100% voluntary. That if my personal goal was to see that people had a universal basic income or universal health care and all of that was taken care of, that, you know, impoverished children could have lunches throughout the summer, or a 90-year-old person could get the health care that they need, that I would say that, okay, out of my X amount of dollars going into the tax fund generally, I'm going to elect, and I use that term specifically, 10% goes into program A, 10% goes into program B, 10% goes into program C. And I guarantee you that the rest of it is certainly not going into programs for things that I don't agree with, regardless of what those disagreements may be. That it would be in a democratic tax system where we're not just advocating for a particular elected individual, but it's saying if I've got to pay these fees to a government, that I'm going to democratically say that my personal fees are going to go to this particular type of program.
Okay. I like that. It gives you agency over where your tax dollars are going. And this is a stupid culture war issue, but I kind of want to bring it up because I think a lot of people might align with this. Abortion. So could you say I don't want any of my tax dollars to go to support abortion?
Theoretically, if that was the system that we had, at the same time, the American Capitalist Party 100% supports individual liberty. As a subset of individual liberty comes bodily autonomy. A woman has the medical right, the individual right, to choose what does or does not happen to her own body. Abortion falls within that. If woman A in state A says that she wants an abortion, but woman B in state A says she doesn't want an abortion, great. Make your damn choice. Have your kid. What's happening currently in our country, though, is that we have a federal government that's saying you're not going to be able to get preventative care. You're not going to have access to prenatal care. You're not going to be able to terminate a pregnancy, even if that pregnancy was conceived based off of rape, incest, or similar. You're not going to be able to terminate a pregnancy if the health of the baby, the genetic development of the baby in utero, is counter to survival ex utero. That baby's going to be born. It's going to die within 48 hours. We know this from, a whole lot of medical research that the National Institutes of Health have funded. But we're going to cut off that funding supply. We're going to say that these women can't have an abortion when we know that the baby's not going to survive, or even worse, that the mother's not going to survive. Peripartum cardiomyopathy is a cardiac syndrome that occurs in greater number of women that we know of currently, because it's not studied, it's not listened to. They want to say that all women that go through pregnancy with heart conditions, they're just suffering from anxiety or depression. They're not looking into the deeper issues. Meanwhile, pregnancy carries with it a lot of consequences and complications that the medical community is not exactly up to date on, and they still have to be educated on it. We still have to learn as a scientific and medical community of what the results are from carrying a parasitic organism in your own body for a particular period of time. And it can cause heart failure, It causes diabetes. It can cause a number of things. And to say that we're going to let a woman die when, she's not going to survive the successful delivery of the baby, or, the baby itself is not going to survive outside of the womb once delivered, is irrational. It's insane. It's genocidal, for lack of a better term. It's
Well,
just
I agree with you at that extreme case for sure. I agree with you on that. And I want to try and like weave this. So give me a minute to like go a few places, but try and connect it. I actually disagree in that I think elective mother's healthy, baby's healthy, everyone's fine. I think actually that's wrong. I think the baby is entitled bodily autonomy at the moment of conception. However, I'm an anarchist. I don't think there should be a government getting in the way of anybody doing anything. And so the idea that if I could elect to not have my tax dollars go to support that, I like that. To me, that's a compromise, and I think that's actually a winning point for the American Capitalist Party.
it makes no one wants to pay taxes. Everyone wants to look for tax loopholes and reduce their individual tax burden on the state. You know, the poorest of the poor do it, the richest of the rich do it. Hell, I learned some of the greatest tax shelters in the world from Harvard Business School MBAs. You know, uh, I no one wants to pay taxes, but death and taxes. It's what we
Eh,
have.
and
And
so yeah.
making that voluntary, or making the allocations voluntary, gives the individual taxpayer the agency to say that, if I'm going to be forced to pay all of this money, at least I know that the money that I'm sending forward doesn't go to things that I have moral and ethical objections to. And everyone's going to make their own decisions. Everyone's going to be at liberty to choose which bucket they drop their little shekels into. Uh,
I really like that. I think the party really should lean into that, me personally. But we kind of skipped over a whole talking point that maybe we can move back to,
yeah,
and you've
yeah.
you've
Let's.
referenced it and alluded to it. This party, it's a new party as a result of a lot of people being disillusioned with what's going on in the state of America globally. But America, the left right paradigm, the culture war, that in my opinion, the culture wars are being waged to distract people from the class wars that are going on. Would Shit is fucked. Like that's just the best way to say it. Sometimes it's best to be crass and direct. Shit is fucked. You've alluded to it, and so that's what we're doing here is trying to find a new path forward. Because while we disagree on some things, there are core components that we definitely agree on. You're saying it perfectly. Nobody wants to pay taxes, but okay, yeah, sure, we have to. That's what I'll say. Do you see these culture war issues as a cover for the class war? How do you describe the class war? And how does the American Capitalist Party deal with billionaires? Are they allowed even?
So it's a big question. Uh, and under true laissez faire style, the American Capitalist Party is not going to restrict the existence of billionaires. If the market were to allow for an individual to net an income above $1 billion, well, good for that individual. That's what the market did. What the American Capitalist Party is going to say, though, and where they're going to stand on it, is that Elon Musk is not going to become a billionaire because of government funded contracts. That we're not going to cut off competition so that only certain individual oligarchs can amass this grand amount of wealth in a very short period of time. And I think that's meaningful because a return to a free market requires a separation of government from economy, just like we need government out of healthcare, we need government out of schools, we need government out of religion, and the converse of all of those is also true. Religion, business, education, healthcare, all out of government. Stop interfering in the government through lobbyists and K Street and the the campaign finance issues that are ongoing. All of that is black market purchasing of government wholesale at the expense of the people. True capitalism encourages healthy competition, preventing monopolies. And what our current government is doing is 100% saying that our government chooses this particular company to gain all of this money for all of these particular goods. Of course, when our government does it, those goods are usually bombs or drugs or guns that are used to then go kill other people elsewhere, or to supplant the ability for people in this country to get the health care that they need at an affordable price, buy the Tylenol. I don't know if you saw it recently, but the CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb went before Congress and told Congress, yeah, we charge, God, I forget the original figure, thousands of dollars per year for this one particular drug. That same drug is sold in Canada for $900 a year. At $900 Canadian, right? Because there's a currency valuation there, which means that, the American dollar is still worth more than the Canadian dollar. But at 900 Canadian dollars, they are still able to make a profit on this particular drug. And when a US senator directly asked the CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb if they would reduce the price of the drug in the United States to that same level where they still make a profit, that CEO said no. They are fleecing America, and our government allows it to happen. And
I agree. I agree. How does the American Capitalist Party prevent this from happening? Because aren't we supposed to have checks and balances in our current constitutional republic system? That's a really really tough
are you asking me
question.
that question today, or are you asking me that question 5 weeks ago? The answer is
Um,
different.
Interesting. I want to ask a different question though. Also, would you say America right now is a capitalist country?
No.
Okay. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Because, whew, okay. Okay. Wow. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm actually curious though, what was your answer 5 weeks ago and what is it now and why has it changed?
Are we a capitalist country?
No, on the, how does the American Capitalist Party prevent the corruption that we see, and that you were
I,
outlining?
we have the American Capitalist Party has a philosophical grounding in rational objectivist philosophies. All right, there's an economic basis to the considerations of the party. The course of our country over the last 4 weeks um, has certainly taken a hard left, and it's a fluid situation that ultimately has changed the environment in which we're interacting, and everyone is still trying to figure that out. We're still trying to figure out where rule of law fits in. I mean, the current economy has been completely mixed. There's a lot of collectivist and socialist intervention from the United States government, uh, and there's also been a lot of opening up of the market. It's not a pure laissez-faire system. It's not a pure socialist system. It's not a pure communist system, but it's 100% purely meddled with, and has been since Alexander Hamilton, uh, interfering with monetary policy, interfering with bank rates, etc. Uh, the the formulas that were used 5 weeks ago, the understanding of, okay, if I take this particular action now, I can expect X, Y, and Z results. That same formula today is likely going to have different results based on current events and decisions that have been made and the way things are going. And I don't think any American should stand by what has been happening over the last 4 weeks.
I mm, I really really want to ask, but I want to ask in the right way because let me just maybe say this: what I've seen over the last 4 5 weeks has been no real change in the bigger agenda of the parasite class. What I've seen a shift in is the social engineers and their attempts to divide the people. So I last night you watched the show No Division. That's sort of this idea that I'm trying to push, because the parasite class's plans have not changed. Their means of executing their objectives may have changed,
It's an
but
interesting choice of word for that action, but
well, I mean, they are genocidal. They're very genocidal, I think, and so you know, and I also want to make space because I understand the fear that people are feeling to an extent, but we have to. Okay, will you just kind of outline more? You're talking about Elon Musk, I imagine, I'm assuming, and the whole Doge thing.
yeah, sorry, I
How,
wanted to throw on dead Kennedys kill the poor.
say again?
I had a moment, as far as the social engineers. I felt like it was an opportune moment to throw on the Dead Kennedys song "Kill the Poor."
I'm not familiar with that song actually,
Dead
so
Kennedys kill the poor. Old school punk. You'll you'll thank me later.
I thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. But so you're concerned about Elon Musk. You're concerned about Doge. I
I'm
I am
no, no,
no,
no.
no. Okay.
Let me correct you on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Please
see where
do.
you're going, and I don't disagree with you, but I want to correct the way that you're saying it. I'm not concerned with Elon Musk. I'm not concerned with Doge. I love the idea of government accountability and audits. I would love to know where all of the billions of dollars were in uh, building number 7 24 years ago. You know, I want to know what happened to all of that. I want to know where the audits were for all of that. I find nothing wrong with ensuring that the money that the people have given to a particular organization is used in the way that it best supports the people if it's going to be taken from them. The same way that I want all of the money that I give to a particular corporation for any particular goods or services to be utilized ethically and not enrich the owners of the company while all of the people do all of the work and they're on the golf course. I don't think that's fair, but that's me personally. When it comes to Elon Musk and Doge, I'm not worried about them. What I am worried about is the rule of law in this country. I'm worried about our Constitution. I'm worried about our government working effectively in the way that it was set out. If it's in need of a change, if the way that our government operates or is structured requires or necessitates a major structural change, then there are methods and legal ways to go about it. And regardless of outcome, the methods currently engaged, the speed at which it's engaged, who's engaging in them is beyond the pale. It's so far outside of the bounds of traditional government action or engagement or who is even authorized to have all of this information.
See,
We can do all of this, but we can go about it in the right way.
what you
And
said there, traditional, so out of bounds of traditional government action. I feel like we passed that point decades ago, and so that's where I'm coming at this from, where it's like we passed the point of traditional government action so long ago that everything new, it's not new, it's just more
it's
of
just
their
different.
plan unfolding.
I'm with you on that. On that note, let me explain the Alan Thomas versus Alex Freeman deal. Okay. Because I 100% agree with you that it's been awful for decades and we've been off the rails for a long ass time. So, about 25 years ago, I'm an undergraduate in college, right? And being an undergrad, we go out, we do things. I'm in a very southern state and I don't have a southern accent. So when I speak, most southerners with a southern accent don't really understand my accent very well. And so when I said, hey, my name was Alan, over and over and over again, people thought that I was saying Alex. Now, at some point, my young ass woke up and said, that's probably a good thing for the next morning. The plausible deniability. Let me just go with that. You think my name is Alex? Absolutely. My name is Alex. All day, every day, twice on Tuesdays. It's whatever. Um, but the more and more I thought about it, the more authentic that actually became um, in my life based on what my parents ended up naming me. It's like I've been trying to sort through that identity and how am I going to identify? It wasn't with pronouns, it was with actual names. And so during this course of time, my undergraduate years, like the name Alex Freeman came to me like, okay, I like how the Alex came about, and I love the name Alex. Uh, the Freeman part came exactly where everyone should immediately go to when they hear the name Freeman. In 1863, when all of the slaves were freed in this country, so many of them adopted the name free man. And I did too. And from that point, Alex Freeman was really born. And I've published under that name. I've written countless articles under that name. I have appeared on podcasts and spoken my truth with that name because that was authentically who I am, where I came from, and how I got to the position that I was in that point. Right. And so when it comes to the government trying to address anything or trying to get things done, yeah, Alex Freeman has a lot of freedom that Alan Thomas with a birth certificate and a social security number and maybe a star ID or a passport doesn't have. And it's that freedom that we're all searching for. It's that ability to say what you need to say and do what you need to do in order to accomplish what you think is right in the world. And that's where the name came from.
I dig it because there's a few places my brain went. One was the world is just more fun when you allow yourself to not be different people. Like, I'm not saying be schizophrenic, but it's like trying to learn who you are in different situations. Because yeah, that's kind of where my brain went. So you're adaptable and moldable, and you're playing with it, which is just fun. Also, though, it's good to have that plausible deniability. I use a fake name in a lot of places where I go. Well, you know, like a pot shop or whatever, where it's no big deal. I'll give a fake name. We kind of have touched on the philosophy a little bit, but maybe that we could segue there. Because I love all of philosophy. I'm not a philosopher. I don't have any novel ideas myself. I just, and I don't even have a specific type or era. It's just random fucking shit in my head. Like I say, I'm in my Diogenes phase of life where I'm
Okay.
essentially, I'm homeless and I'm hanging out with dogs, and he was also a cynic, but he was also known for challenging his friends. And I've been challenging my
That's
friends
a great
lately.
sense of humor.
Oh yeah. So, oh my gosh, the story about him telling the king to move out of his sunlight, like, oh man. But do you? Okay, well, let's blend philosophy and spirituality because they're connected. Do you have an identifying like label that you would say? Are you Christian? Are you? I don't think you're Christian. Are you Buddhist? Yeah, what are
I,
you?
I, I'm me. That's the only thing I can say. I'm me. Uh, I've studied extensively from many schools of thought from across the world. I've been to Nepal. I've been to Europe. I've been to the Vatican. I've been to plenty of places. Um, at the end of it, I'm just me.
Well, I'll try and ask a better question, but let me say this. Something that I noticed about our interactions on social media is that you are a very passionate person. You care a lot, and it's clear. What drives that passion? Because I know you have it. I know you do.
So many things. For instance, the fact that I live in a very deep red southern state and I have young daughters that I don't want them to grow up under the Damocles sword of the medical policy that exists in this state. Um, that's a pretty damn big one. Um, I have multiple children, boys and girls. Uh, I don't want them indoctrinated with what this particular state says they should be indoctrinated against because I know what they're teaching and I also know what the truth is, and I don't want my kids taught lies. Um,
You just used the big word there, the truth, man. Like, because we're talking about philosophy. Like, what is truth? Holy crap! That I think about that all the time. Like, and I think about how do you prove things and logic and ultimately it's you can't. For me, you know, I'm very Socratic in that. Like, you know, I know that I know nothing, and that's so cliche to say, and I hate it. But I cannot get around the I don't believe in God. I'm not a Christian myself. Like I don't. believe in a deity. I like the idea of the universe being its own entity and we're all part of it, right? Non duality, super pretty typical of the spiritual movement. There's even a cosmological model, CCC, it's concentric, well, God damn it, conformal cosmology that just says the universe is continually repeating this process of expansion and collapse, expansion and collapse. And I'm like, okay, yeah, because that then gives way to this idea of reincarnation, which is super, I think, relevant. But when there's no God to tell you what truth is, and when you're relying on sense data and sense perception that is very flimsy at best, and then there's like mathematics. So like, what is truth? I know I'm rambling at this point, but and I think it's important for people, this is my personal opinion, to not get so caught up in their truth and then project it out into the world and say, this is how you need to live your life, which is where we agree. The government shouldn't be interfering in people's lives because ultimately nobody's truth we can say with certainty is the right truth.
So, since the beginning of the interwebs, there has been the meme of the two guys facing each other. One of them is looking at a 6, the other one is looking at a 9, right? Just within the last few days, I found one even better, saw one even better. So if you look at it from, let's call it the X dimension, you see a bunch of concentric circles. You get a circle here, a circle here, and then a little dot in the center, right? Okay, cool. If you look at it from the Y dimension, you're seeing a spiral. If you look at it from the Z dimension, all you see is a straight line because all of them are lining up. And it's just a matter of perspective. The truth, those things are true only from a certain point of view. And I know that probably conflicts with the ideas of a lot of the objectivists that are going to be with the American Capitalist Party. But perspective matters. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a subjective point of view that they're necessarily wrong, but when you can incorporate multiple perspectives into that and understand how each party is really coming at a particular problem, like, I'm not trying to advocate for circles, I'm not trying to advocate for straight lines, I'm not trying to advocate for spirals. I'm trying to advocate for everyone coming together and understanding that together, with our various perspectives, with our various points of view, we can still agree on a couple of things and move the whole process forward in a way that resonates with everyone, that supports those basic objectivist philosophies, the liberty, the life, the liberty, and the freedom to conduct our affairs in ways that allow us the most freedom possible. And I don't know. That's my take on it.
No, I like what you said. You inspired some thoughts for me. My logo, kind of, that I have, the Taijitu, the symbol of the Tao. I love that. And the truth is gray. When you say truth is perspective, imagine somebody on the white side and on the black side, and they're looking, across over or at the ground. The truth is gray. It kind of depends on where you're standing. And then you also brought something up about the objectivists in the American Capitalist Party. You had said to me in a message, you wanted to talk about how they're too left-brained. Was that your criticism? That like maybe they're too left brained, and that might be me also. And so it'd be really cool to hear about, you know, how I can expand myself in my
So,
horizons.
okay, so a little background on from where I speak on this. I have a master's degree in psychology. I have a PhD in political science. Okay? I have studied all of this. My master's and dissertation work included a lot of developmental psychology and the development of nations and the ability of nations to structure environments that help the people of those nations develop the most level of self-actualization, right? So I've seen a lot of information from all sides about this and from all philosophies and all different philosophers, economists, etc. Um, I, I I don't take one as being particularly more right than the other. Uh, but one second, I got distracted by something real quick. Um, like I believe in, and I've seen the PET scans, the MRI scans, etc., that shows that the left versus the right hemispheres of the brain achieve two different functions. You know, the right's more artistic and musical side. The left is more linguistic and intellectual. And we can see these parts lighting up differently. And I would hypothesize that when it comes to Hegelian or Kantian or uh, Hayek or Keynes or whoever you want to study, like someone that ascribes to those particular philosophies, if you start talking to them about those philosophies, you're going to have that side of the brain light up. If you talk to someone about spirituality and multiple dimensions of existence, etc., you'll see more of the right brain light up. I haven't seen that data. Those are just hypotheses, but that's ultimately what I meant by that. And I would suspect that at a particular point, you would have a symbiotic relationship between both sides of both the objectivist philosophy or intellectual philosophy as well as the spiritual development that work together as opposed to ignoring the other side of it.
It's funny because objectivists are, you know, hyper rational. That's kind of their thing. But again, bringing up my logo because it's just so perfect. That balance is truly the key. So having hyper logical, hyper rational people, but then partnering them with more emotional, more sensitive people, and having that, I'll use the word coalition. That's a popular word lately, but it's perfect. Building a coalition with both types of people because ultimately them interacting with one another is what will allow them to broaden their own perspectives and horizons. And I'm going to beat this horse dead, but the social engineers have just done so good at dividing us. This conversation, for example, has been fantastic because there are times where it's like I disagree, but like I'm still having fun and I'm learning, and so I'm really excited that we've been able to do this.
As am I. Uh,
The I do we want to go back to the party for a little bit, or you talked about developmental
well,
psych
I,
or spirituality. You haven't really touched on that.
I would just, I'd love to say that, I don't think we're going to ever convince 100% of the people 100% of the time to agree with us 100% on 100% of the things. And there has to be some level of respect and dignity that allows for the existence of the other, the perspective, the life, the experience of the other, without simply shutting them out because, I don't know, 2% of their belief structure goes against something that you believe. That's ridiculous. You still agree on 90% of the things, right? And I'm just throwing numbers out there, trying to make it a little bit more rational for the rational people out there. But if we can have conversations, if we can get to know each other, we're probably going to do better in the end because we're going to know each other. You're going to be another instead of an object to me, you know? If we can converse instead of fight all the damn time, you know, and you know, again, I say that is my personal point of view, not necessarily the party point of view. That's just me, but uh, that's where I'm coming at this. And yes, that's why this is a fun conversation. This is how you and I first met and first were able to establish any kind of connection from the jump. You know, as the secretary of our party has said, uh, you know, we have common themes and we have common goals. Let's stop finding the common objections. Let's stop finding the common disagreements. Let's stop focusing on those. And let's focus on the ways that we can work together. That should not be such a radical view in any society. And yet it seems to be. And it's just so damn simple.
They've been doing it for centuries, you know, just dividing the people. They're so damn good at it. Is the party, is it currently like local and you're part of it? Like, are you ahead or is it
All right.
national?
So it is a national organization.
National.
I am the treasurer of the organization. And I am also a candidate for city council in the local town where I live. We have a goal that differs quite substantially and intentionally from the Libertarian or the Green parties, previous third parties that have existed in our country. That our political strategy is to find the individuals like you, for instance, or Stephen, across the country that believe as we do, or believe in enough in what we're doing and how we're doing it, why we're doing it, to band together and start locally to, whether it's city council or mayor or county commissioner or state legislator, let's get those positions in first, build a voter base, build a donor base, and work locally to support our own damn neighbors. You know, the people that live in our own communities. Let's work with them as opposed to having these lofty ideals and shooting for the moon and trying to have the most glitteriest, best national campaign for president where you sell out your own goddamn candidate in order to get a position in the Republican Party. I lost you there. I can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. You were throwing shade at someone. I'm not quite sure.
Her name is Angela McCardle, and I will say it out loud.
Okay, good. Fuck you, Angela. I don't know who you are, but fuck you.
She is the now disgraced and former chair of the Libertarian National Committee.
Okay, yeah. See, I don't even like I don't even like the Libertarian Party, man, and so that's why I'm really curious.
Mm.
I'm stealing this from the communist playbook, but the idea of infiltrating existing institutions and redirecting the ship from within is a wonderful idea and wonderful tactic, I
Oh,
think.
that's not communist. That's Sun Tzu. That's the art of war.
Well, yeah, but that's
And I'm pretty sure Machiavelli mentioned that too.
something they've explicitly outlined. But I very much am anti-collectivist. I think you might disagree with that, but I don't want to get hung up on that.
Oh no, 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 no. I have been accused of having too much left-leaning anarchism in my soul. I
Yeah,
don't I don't ascribe to any sort of collectivism. What I do, however, recognize is that at some point society does exist. I'm not going to get rid of society. There's no way to get rid of society. I have a family. Family is the most basic central society that can possibly exist. What am I going to do? Get rid of my damn kids? No, I love my kids. I'm not going to get rid of them as much as I'm not going to get rid of society itself. And no matter how much I might have anarchic tendencies, I have to acknowledge that there is society, and we have to have some sort of ability to interact together as a whole with some sort of common ground and some sort of common good. And there are different ways to go about it. And the least restrictive and most freedom and liberty inducing ones are the ways that I'm going to be looking at. Those are going to be the ways that I try to go for. And when it comes to it, having government out of as much as it can possibly be out of, being as restricted as possible, merely to help society as a whole uh, maintain a level of safety and preventing the abuse of liberty projected at that society from elsewhere, whether it's inside or outside. Those are some common things that I think a lot of people, even anarchists, might agree on. Although, if you've ever, and I know you have, been in any sort of chat room or conversation with anarchists, anarchists will argue whether or not cheese goes on a pizza. Not even pineapple, just cheese. Why?
there
Because they like to argue about everything, and they just want to insist on disagreeing about everything, and ain't nobody got
it's
time for that.
it's wild the differing views people or directions people have taken anarchism, because you had said you're left-leaning anarchism. Literally, there's a left-wing anarchism and a right-wing anarchism, or rather there are people who say there are. I don't think there are, but I'm one of the people who will argue I don't argue in
That's
chat rooms.
that's what I've been accused of.
The and I think just the overall goal of getting the government out of our lives is perfect. I want to kind of maybe go back to the party and me interpreting some of you said common themes and goals. So now, is universal healthcare like part of the party platform? Is that one of those buckets I could choose to? No. Okay. So is there no healthcare, or what? What's the party's
Government would be
position?
entirely out of the healthcare. There
Okay.
would be no, but at the same time, hear me out. Hear me out. At the same time, there would be no government support for pharmacy benefit managers, for instance. Like all of the middlemen that have a government protected space within that market to manipulate the market would be out of a job. They wouldn't have the government protections anymore. All of the things that make healthcare so damn expensive in this country would be theoretically gone. The Bristol Myers Squibb CEO wouldn't be able to have a patent on that particular drug. The patents would be gone. Anybody could, with a bathtub and some beakers would be able to make that particular drug, right?
Breaking Bad, but with insulin.
I
No,
mean,
and
what's the difference?
I'm glad you brought
Corporate
that up.
wants you to show it the difference. What's the difference?
No, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because although I respect property rights, or I believe in the idea of property rights, I think extending that to intellectual property, like chemical formulas that someone else could create, I think that's stupid. I think obviously, if somebody is able to create something, they should be able to sell it, blah, blah, blah. But if somebody can buy your product, reverse engineer it, and create it themselves, they should totally be allowed to. Because to me, you can't own like chemical formulas. To me, that's like how I interpret anarchism. So insulin is the best example. Like, that shit should be so fucking cheap, because colleges should be mass producing it as like part of Chem 101 or Biochem 101. It should just be part of the curriculum to learn, because A, then you have this really, really cheap, abundant source of insulin. And then B, you're teaching people how to make it, and just people
Well,
need to learn.
well,
And so I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
and here's absolutely, and here's a scenario for you. Um, we get into a land war with Asia when death is on the line, and suddenly there's a mutually assured destruction, and we're limited to convening in much smaller groups. How are those much smaller groups going to maintain the health needs of the surviving members with all of that intellectual property? Now, in my mind, intellectual property is The Catcher in the Rye, or Fahrenheit 451, or uh,
I love
the,
that book, by the way.
the School of Athens. Intellectual property is not the ownership of life-saving medicine for so many people. And on top of that, what is and what is not protected by intellectual property is subject to debate. There, the American Capitalist Party is going to draw the line at a different place that I personally do, for instance.
Will you tell me both lines? I'm just curious.
I, like, the patents would be gone, right? Patents are legal government protections that secure rights outside of the protection of liberty of the individual. And as it relates to the medical and pharmaceutical community, that's really been allowed or has been used to support them making enhanced and overblown profit margins at the expense of the lives of actual people. And there are ethical arguments, there are debates that can be had just within that one little area that you're never going to get every single person to agree on every single bit of the time. Where the American Capitalist Party ultimately stands is on preserving the rights and liberties of the individual, not just the consumer, but also the creator of these products, these goods, these services, whatever the case may be. Um, yeah. Uh, Added to that, this is, of course, a brand new political party. We're a few months old. We're starting with some basic things, some basic ideas that a lot of people on the left and on the right, the anarchists, the libertarians, there's something here for everyone to agree with, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to basic fundamental liberty and freedom, the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's got to start somewhere. And there's going to be disagreements within it. There's going to be development and evolution as internally we have conversations and different perspectives come in, and but you know what? We're going to talk about it. We're going to have conversations, and the perspectives will evolve. And ultimately, if we can have those conversations, we're going to evolve and grow together, as opposed to continuously fighting and making enemies out of each other and preventing any sort of development and progress from happening. We're here to have conversations. We're here to work together. We're here to grow together and be a people together. That's how we started all of this.
I love all of that. We've hit the hour mark. I don't know what you're doing for energy, but I want to ask at least one last question.
Coffee.
Because I think...
always coffee.
Okay. So far, I think, yeah, no, you've attracted me, and I'm a hard sell, so that's good. If you really want to get the Republicans, though, I have to know, how does the American Capitalist Party view guns? Okay, yep, you're going to get a lot of conservatives, because I know so many conservatives that don't like the party now, that don't like Donald Trump, that don't like Elon Musk. So there are so many, they're both on the left and the right, so many people who are looking for a new way. And the Libertarian Party, it's been hijacked or whatever. It's not cool. The Green Party, I'm sorry, has never been cool. I'm just making a joke. Just making a joke. This has me excited. I've always thought about, like, my name, my last name, Lauridsen, has a lot of cachet or cash or whatever. In my hometown, there's like a family legacy. Unfortunately, that expression, generational wealth, is squandered, often by the third or fourth generation. The family farm is gone, and it breaks my heart, but there's still the biggest road in town is named after my family. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I could probably run for mayor on a very, like, let's get the fucking government out of your life ticket, and I would likely have a good opportunity. Because so many, the town, I'll just speak on this a little bit. It's a beautiful town, but when they started cracking down on businesses, when they started trying to cater to the retirement community, people who already have money, it just turned into this like little podunk shit fuck place that has a Walmart, and it's just not what it used to be, because the economy sucks. So if I'm like, hey, we're going to get rid of all of the bureaucracy, we're going to lower the sales tax, we're going to do all these things to revitalize the economy, because it's got like so much potential. It used to have so much character, and it was so cool of a little seaside, Port Angeles, Washington. I don't care about telling my life story publicly. If you've never been there, it's a cool place to check. Oh, you live elsewhere. Yeah. But anyways, it's a cool town, and I want to see it revitalized, but I want some of like the graffiti to stay, and some of the older buildings, I want them to stay. So I want it to have like
some of the artwork, some of the character.
Yeah, so I wanted to have that juxtaposition of like revitalization, but also honoring sort of the history.
If you want to do that, let me know, and I'll work with you to help make that happen.
That's always been a delusion of grandeur for me. So when I talk about it to you, it's like I've never seriously thought about it.
But yet somehow now it seems really close and plausible and practical, and there are resources to help get you there. There's know-how, there's support, and you just need one more of us to help take over the country, one little town at a time. Because when the world falls apart, when the world goes to shit and everything crumbles, it's going to be the people running the city councils, the mayors, that are in charge of keeping everybody safe, everybody sane, everyone fed, and we'll be the ones in power.
I'm gonna pivot to a place. I've been big on trying to be vulnerable and honest and authentic. When you said all of that, it a wave of not inadequacy hit me because I feel like I could do it, but I still have a block, like a block in that, I have shame and disappointment in myself. I don't want to make this about me, but I am, I guess. I told you I'm homeless or I'm unhoused, and I do work, and because I've been living in a van, I've been able to like pay down debt. So I still have a little bit, but I'm in a better place than the average American in that sense, and so I'm thankful for that. But I'm still like kind of ashamed of who I am, and so that shame block hit me hard when I was like, could I seriously do this? Could I seriously be a mayor? Yes, I believe in myself, but there's still shame. If I know that's weird, but that's what happened.
Well, on that note, it it sounds like to me that a lot of that shame that you're talking about comes from the generational trend and history of your family and that town, both together and separately, right? Um, there's generational wealth and there's generational trauma, and a lot of what I feel like needs to happen right now. And here's an answer to your spirituality question from earlier too, is that what we, you, me, Stephen, my wife, everyone else with the American Capitalist Party can do is maybe a little bit of the generational and historical and cultural shadow work that should be done across the spectrum of society. Right? Uh, you know, shadow work is often something discussed quietly among a few individuals that are really trying to examine this, and it's done privately, uh, with very little fanfare, very little discussion, very little uh, peer or mentor assistance, right? But if you really look at what we're trying to do right now, uh, the problems that we're trying to address with our culture and our society and our government, uh, in order to secure our freedoms, there's a lot of shadow work that needs to be done for that. Acknowledging what was done incorrectly or what had negative consequences or unintended results that we're now stuck with dealing with. So let's not shy away from examining those and investigating them and stepping forward to do everything in our power many generations after the fact that all of this just started to use today as the moment where we're going to start doing them a different way and going about it a different way with different intentions, with an understanding of where we've been and an accountability and a recognition of, yeah, like, I know we're in a bad place right now. I know it doesn't look as good as it should. We shouldn't be. Like, we were meant for so much more. We were destined for so much more. Well, do the shadow work and acknowledge the negatives of the past, the incorrect choices of where we've been and what we've done, and let's start to make some better choices with a different set of or different calculus now or a different reasoning now than what made those choices back then. And maybe we'll get somewhere different and we'll move forward in a much better way.
Thank you very much for that. That has been a big focus of mine the last few months, last few years. Shit, let's be honest. Um, and I really do. I've been on a great upward trajectory, and I know I'm going to have ups and downs, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel. I still have more work to do, and I acknowledge that. And it's
We
cool.
We all do. It's called life.
Yeah, no, truly, like you should never stop just trying to learn or trying to grow or yeah, but yet we often get complacent because shit, man, it's so hard to survive. Uh, Maybe one. I know I said I was going to ask one more question, but I just had another one that connects to it's so hard to survive, and everything's expensive. Inflation. So everybody talks about no employers don't pay enough, but not enough people talk about our money doesn't buy what it used to.
our our money isn't worth what it used to be worth. And so here's an area that the American Capitalist Party itself is still exploring, uh, and hasn't yet set out a particular policy position yet, but one in which the question has been raised and the conversation's been outgoing. Um, in the 1970s, we got off the gold standard completely. We went to a fluctuating currency. That fluctuating currency is based on debt. That debt means something different to someone that makes $50,000 per year than someone that makes $500 million a year. For the $50,000 a year person, debt is a burden. For the $500,000 person a year, debt is the mode at which they become a $600,000 or $700,000 person per year. It's access to someone's money to enrich themselves. And there's a different set of rules for both sets of people. Ask any banker and force them to tell you the truth, and they will have to admit that point. Debt is a killer for someone who is actually expected to pay that back themselves. Debt is a profit center for someone that never has to worry about it, that can use the bankruptcy laws to shield themselves from it, or can expect other people or the government to satisfy the loan, or at least the bank, while they strip all of the profit out of it, right? And this debt based system is set up with the projection of inflation. We have a target inflation. Okay, well, if the target inflation in 1986 is 3%, and the target inflation in 2006 is 3%, and the target inflation in 2026 is 3%, and we're anywhere near plus or minus half a percentage point of that target number, well, guess what? That percentage is compounding on 1987, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And we're left in a position where what was a $50,000 home 35 years ago is a $3.5 million home today. And it's so overvalued that no one can afford it. The bankers don't want to lend the money on it. The insurers can't afford to provide for it. Sorry, California and North Carolina or Georgia or anyone who just had their home wiped out by a flood or a fire. And we've really built in the structural weaknesses that are about to bring collapse. And that collapse, that impending collapse, has always been there. It's built into our monetary policy. And unless the exchange of can and goods and services can really be solidified in a way that doesn't lead to an overvaluation or a dot-com bubble or a real estate bubble, we're never going to have equity or parity. You know, in that sort of financial world, 2 plus 2 could equal 5. It could also equal 217, just as easily as it could equal 4. Now, on my mathematics, 2 plus 2 equals 4 has always equaled 4 and will always equal 4. And if I have a bunch of chickens that lay a bunch of eggs, but the soil on my property doesn't really grow potatoes or zucchini or garlic or anything like that, maybe my neighbor needs some eggs, and I could trade them for the garlic. You know what I mean? There's an economic parity there that doesn't exist in this fiat currency system, and we're at a moment in history where we really have to start addressing those concerns, because those concerns are getting to the point where even the most prosperous companies, the most prosperous sectors of our economy, are finding it unable, they're incapable of conducting business as usual, because those inflationary bubbles have gotten to a point where they don't even make sense for the actuarians. And in the meantime, as all of that falls apart, it's going to be you and me that suffer. And the people that aren't going to suffer are going to be the heads of whoever's CEO at JP Morgan Chase and whoever's the head of BlackRock and State Street Financial. They're the ones that are going to reap the benefits of this. And I don't know if any of you have checked lately, but I'm not a fan of an oligarchy. That's not freedom.
That's literally the word I just wrote down, because you said it earlier, and I love that you said it, and I wanted to bring it back into this because I this triggers people when I say this, but I think we're in this weird sort of fascistic oligarchy, and it's like a global effort in a lot of ways. I think the technocratic transhumanists are trying their best to consolidate, in the parasite class, they're trying to consolidate resources and power. And I mean that it's
And,
fascistic.
and I have a question for all of those people. Cool. You're going to do this. Outstanding. 100% with you. Go for it. Full steam ahead. And when half of the population is dead and there's no one to rent to, there's no one that's purchasing uh, overpriced power on a month to month basis, there's no one subscribing to get a blue check mark, when none of these people are continuing to fund your insurance agencies or anything else, what is your wealth going to be worth then? Where are you going to be at that point? And more than that, how are you going to feed yourselves? Or is it just going to get to the point where all the poor people die, all of the immigrants die, and the rich turn on themselves and the rich eat the rich? I'm just trying to figure out what happens at that point. I don't know the answer.
Uh, we're gonna have to do this conversation again because I have more questions, and we didn't even talk about violence because Uh, I'm not I'm not an aggressive person. I'm an angry person, but and that's like, so I just hold it all in, and it's not good. But spirituality has been great for that, and these conversations and everything. But I want to mainstream this idea that authorities should not be as comfortable as they are putting their hands on people, and how we move that. I think I'm not advocating for the initiation of the use of force, but I am suggesting maybe people should start to physically resist more, which I know is a very controversial thing to say.
That's
And
another conversation for another day,
yeah,
I think.
that absolutely is. But I'm absolutely exhausted, so I think I want to sort of wind down. But before I do that, I just wanted to see if there's like some closing words you have. When the video is uploaded, I'll add to the description the party website. And then
Cool.
also send me any like social medias or anything you want me to also put in the description. But thank you. This has been, I'm going to include you in this. Last night I told Steven I'm thankful to have fraternity in my life again. Because men, when we're left alone, our brains go to crazy places. And I feel like this
True.
conversation has, walked me back from some places, and it's really helped me sort of, okay, let's revisit some ideas. And I need that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
What closing notes would you like to offer?
I don't like closing notes. I like until we meet again. Uh,
Okay.
it again, it's a matter of perspective. The words that we use carry weight. The words that we use carry meaning. And if we close everything off, so it goes. There it ends. Um,
Well then, Alex Thomas, also known as Alex, or Alan Thomas, also known as Alex Freeman. Until we meet again, I'm gonna write out a whole bunch of more questions, and then I'm also gonna ask that you send me the link because I want to join the. You said the American Capitalist Party does meetups, so I
yes.
want to participate if I can.
Yeah.
And
So, quick party plug. Uh, it is fully transparent. There are ways to sign up for our monthly newsletter on the website, AmericanCapitalistParty.org. We hold monthly national party meetings. Those are conducted over spaces, uh, Twitter spaces, whatever, so that everybody can join in, everybody can raise their hands, participate, if assuming that you're American, because this is a political party and we have strict guidelines that we have to follow from the Federal Election Commission and the IRS. If you're not American, sorry, love to have you. Submit your ideas in writing. You can be a part of the conversation that way, but you can't really be a part of the party. It's just the way it goes. Nothing against you. Um, but yeah, we hold our meetings completely in the open. We are transparent about the money we bring in. We are transparent about the money that we send out. We are transparent about our ideas and where we stand. And we are looking to include anyone and everyone that wants to support liberty in this country from this point forward.
awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to end the stream there, and
Thank you so much.